Who can you call when the devil trying to kill you? You know what I'm saying? Call on Jesus, baby. When you're laying in a puddle of blood and you wonder how you gonna make it. When you sit in the jail cell and you wonder when you gonna get out. When the bills is due and you ain't got no paper, who can you call? I can call on Jesus. You know what I'm talking about? I've been shot, I've been to jail, and he's came through for me every time. I'm still here, entertained. I'm still breathing, baby. Who can I call when I?
What's poppin', man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. How you doing, man?
I'm all right. I had a reason to put a shirt on with a collar, you know. I could, normally you look shabby, you're doing the Zoom meetings. We're living in a COVID America. So, it's nice to have a reason to put the camera on and look like a decent human being for a little bit.
Yeah, man. So, we on the talk show, Soldier Talk. For y'all let them know, I got the homie James Broaders here, you know what I'm talking about? He coming out of Maryland, you know what I'm saying? We grew up together, went to Sligo together, uh, Einstein together. So, thanks for coming out to the show, man. Glad you could make it.
I'm glad to be here, man. Thank you for bringing me on. I was glad to talk to an old friend and reconnect with somebody. I'll tell you all a little something here. In school, Orseno had this he had this aura around him. You know what I mean? He had this like kind of tough but cool thing going on. But he was never, you have guys like that, but he was never a bully, he was never mean. He was a nice guy. He got along with everybody. He was cool with everybody. But he was also a guy you're like, oh, I don't want to mess with him because he got a thing. There's a thing around him, but it was always like positivity. You know what I mean? So,
right.
Yeah, man, I'm glad to be included. Thank you for bringing me on. I look forward to this conversation with you today.
And I appreciate it, man. And James was always a cool dude, man. I remember we used to all crack jokes and play the joke game. I guess we called it Joning, everybody
Yeah.
cracked jokes and all that stuff. I forgot the teacher's name, that class we was all in. And you know what I'm saying? And I always remember you as a very intelligent guy. So, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't surprise me that you doing your own podcast and doing your thing. Tell everybody what you do for a living.
Yeah. So for work, I am a cloud engineer. I work with hyperconverged clouds for the U.S. government and for the Army. Right now, that's what I'm doing. Private clouds, private networks.
All right, working for the government, doing your thing. Big ups to that. So let's get into this conversation about religion, and why people walk away from God or why people leave religion, or are they really walking away from God, or are they just walking away from tradition and religion? So let's hear from your aspect. Why do you think people, first of all, let me talk a little bit about yourself, your history. You was raised in church.
Yep.
What kind of church was you raised in?
Southern Baptist.
Southern Baptist Church. And what city was that?
Oh, Southern Baptist, Washington, D.C. St.
You know,
Mary's Baptist Church in D.C.
okay. And you was brought up in the church from a child.
Oh,
Your mom was in church, your peoples was in church.
absolutely.
That was a normal thing for you. So what made you kind of turn away from religion or turn away from God or however you want to put it?
Um, I think for me, the biggest thing was I found a lot of when I remember turning 18 and having gone to church every day, whether I went on my own or I went with my mom for one service or another, or we'd stay all day at church, doing the Black church experience. And I remember that I just remember feeling like hypocrisy, you know, and, I don't want to sell my pastor short because he was amazing. Even to this day, my pastor was amazing. He was a great man. But it was the people. There's a inner politics in church that's just unappealing. It left a sour taste in my mouth, and there's other reasons as well, but that was at 18 years old. That was the most impactful thing. I was a junior deacon. My mom was she was in the, I think, the deaconess election process at the time, and they snubbed her. They had snubbed her years after year, after, even though she made all the programs and did this and did that, and basically kept the church on its legs. And yeah, it was, I just felt, they
So
kind of
when
did
you
her
say they
dirty.
snubbed her, do you mean they fired her?
No, no, they didn't. They just, she went through the whatever the process was to become a deaconess, and they just said, well, next year, next
Oh,
time
so they
around.
wouldn't give it
Yeah.
to her.
And the thing is, I mean, it's when you're doing these roles, it's all about serving, right? It's not about, my mom has never been somebody who was chasing glory or something like that. She served, she made the program for free. She printed the program. She did all this stuff for the church. She was there on weekends and weekdays, and she taught Sunday school, and she went to school and got her degree in, she's basically a preacher. She went to seminary, so she was all in on God, you know what I mean? And she still is to this day. So she never felt undercut by the situation, by the way. I was the one who felt undercut for her, but that whole thing, you have these kind of bitter church ladies afraid of the single woman who might steal their 60-year-old, you know, overweight husband or something. I don't know, whatever they thought my mom was going to do, you know,
Right.
but it is what it is. I mean, that's one thing for me that led to it. I think probably the other thing was, and we have talked a little bit about this, but uh I found issue with, uh I thought to myself, well, if you know Judaism, and if you're a Southern Baptist, the Southern Baptist is basically like, hey, if you're not a Southern Baptist, you're going to hell.
Right.
It's cut and dry. There's not a lot of separation
Right.
or wiggle room in there. Oh, you're gay, you're going to hell.
Right.
You're a Jew. Hey, we appreciate what you did, but you turned your way from God. You're going to hell. So
Right.
I think, as a kid and in my 20s and on to my 20s and 30s.
Let me say one quick
Yeah,
thing,
go ahead. Hmm.
real quick.
Yeah.
One of the things, like you Southern Baptist, I'm Baptist. You got some people Catholic, got some people Protestant. I think one of the things that divides us is everybody has a different title,
Oh, sure.
and that kind of causes division instantly. Where in the Bible, Jesus never named himself a Protestant or a Baptist or a Southern Baptist or a Catholic. He just said he was Jesus.
Yeah.
And somewhere along the line, man came along and named all these different branches,
Yeah.
and which caused confusion within Christianity.
Yeah.
Because if you're not part of my branch, you going to hell.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? If you're a Catholic, you're not serving Jesus the right way. Or if you're a Jew or Judaism, or if you're a Muslim, it's all, for me, it's just all about following Jesus Christ. It's all about following the Bible and doing what's right. It's not about tradition. It's not about religion. It's about following Jesus. So go ahead, continue.
Well, no, but you raise a good point there, right? Human beings in every sector, every place where a human being can stand. We love to create division and cliques and groups and clubs and section people off this way and section people off that way. We're not very good at inclusion as a species. You know what I mean? So, I mean, if you
Right,
look into the whole Protestant Catholic thing, you know how that got started. The guy wanted to divorce his wife, so he said, "Well, we'll just make a church that allows divorce now." You know what I mean? So it's it was all that stuff that, I personally had little faith in human beings. I don't, and probably it's my nature even now to not have a lot of faith in people. So I think I was automatically ready to be skeptical, when someone said, "Oh, well, this book was written by man. You just have to have faith," and I said,
right,
"Well, but you can't trust men." And I viewed at that time in my life, and even still somewhat now, I view a lot of these things as structures meant to control people.
right.
So I, church is a hard question for me because I was raised Christian and I battled with this for many years. You know what I mean? Just for me to get to a point where I could sit somewhere like with someone like you, when we talked on the phone the other day and say, well, I consider myself an atheist was a long battle for me to arrive at that point in my life. To go from someone who says, well, I'm not going to worship here, but I want to worship, to go on to say, well, I don't believe in this system at all, is a huge leap. And it was an arduous journey to get there. I'm open to new ideas, but man, I don't know. For me, the restoration of faith is something I would love, but I don't know how to. I don't know that I would be able to. I don't know how I would get there. You know what I mean? Because of everything I've seen, and I think that's another thing, right? Another thing for me, and probably the biggest thing for me actually, is you look in the world and you see what's going on, right? Like America, we got it pretty good. Even black people in America who don't have it pretty good have it pretty good compared
Right,
to like some places. You think
right,
about these girls who are getting sex trafficked, or these kids are getting snatched up and God knows what's happening to them, or some kid in Afghanistan who's in the middle of a war zone right now. I mean, and I think about that stuff and it's horrifying to me that we could live
right,
in a world where there's a God who's like, hey, that's okay. You know what I mean? And I always want to believe God will protect fools and babies, as they say. And
right,
I mean, I don't know. It's hard for me to say that there's some all powerful being who can help people and who's not helping people. And I guess that's the age old thing that people always say, well, how do you know he does? How do you know he exists? He's not helping anybody. But then he does. He's supposed to help people help themselves. It's I don't know, man. It's been a long
right.
time fighting with this in
I,
my
I
brain.
mean, one of the things, as I listened to your story and I listened to like how you said, they did your mom and she put in all the work. The thing about it is you were right when you said you can't put your trust in a man. So it wasn't that your mom wasn't accepted by God. It was that your mom wasn't accepted by a man. And so your mom was doing the right thing by being a loving person and making the programs and doing all that stuff for the church. She was following the path of Jesus Christ, and she's being severely blessed for that. That was the devil when they told her, nah, maybe another time. That's what you call the work of Satan, to discourage you and make you feel like all of what you did was for nothing, and everything that you did was all for nothing. So where's this God person that everybody's talking about? My mom was in church all these years and the church basically rebuked her. It wasn't God that rebuked her. It was in our generation of talking, it was men hating on her.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
of
saying?
course. Right.
Jealous of her. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Maybe not wanting her to be on the board because she would have outshined them.
Yeah.
And I don't want you to outshine me, so let me come up with a way to say you're incapable. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So let me say so your mom, she was on the right path, she's on the right path, and you was on the right path. You know, um, I hate to hear when I hear people that walk away from the faith, but I'm gonna tell you, man, I'm gonna make a prediction. You, might not be today, might not be tomorrow, but you'll return to the faith because you got a friend like me.
Anything's possible, man. Anything's possible.
So one of the things, so there was a story that you were telling me about a friend of yours that you probably handled a situation probably not the best that could have been handled, and it was kind of over religion.
Yeah.
Y'all were two different religions, and you
Yeah.
kind of lost that friendship. Why don't you tell us about that?
Sure. Absolutely. So, a friend of mine I went to high school with, probably one of my, well, not one of my best friend in high school. Um, Loved him dearly, and he met a girl, after high school. She was a Mormon. He was Catholic. And it was the summer of, I think it was 97, 96. No, it was 96. It was 97, 98. I'm old. I'm getting years mixed up, but it was sometime well after high school, 2 years, 3 years after high school, a year after high school. So uh, that summer, he had been dating her, and he wanted, like all men do, he wanted some 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 of her time, right? He wanted some,
Right.
he had his desires, right? And she
Right.
said, well, there has to be a level of religious commitment along with emotional commitment. She's like, I'm not going to do that because you're not a member. You're not a
In other
Mormon.
words, she's not gonna have sex with him unless he joins her religion.
Yeah, exactly. And that meant, and let me say this, it wasn't like, I'm going to give you sex if you join my religion. It was, we need to get married if you want to have sex with me, and that means you need to be a Mormon. Okay.
Right.
So from that respect, she was doing right by her
So
religious
basically, he was
beliefs.
gonna switch religion
Yeah, yeah.
from one
So
religion to another.
yeah. So at that point in my life, I was still, I wasn't going to church, but I was still very Christian. Okay, very
Right.
Baptist. And I didn't know anything about the Mormon faith. So I
So Christian meaning you believed in Jesus. Who did the Mormon believe was God?
Well, they still believe in Jesus, but they have a warped sense of what Jesus stood for, where he came from, and there's layers and layers and layers. I mean, you can do a deep dive on the Mormon religion. You probably need to do a podcast on that all on your own, all yourself, if you really want to. It's a crazy religion. But I did a deep dive on the religion when I was younger. At that time, to because I wanted to learn everything I could learn about it, so I could dissuade him from making this mistake. Because I thought changing your religion is tantamount to saying, I've turned my back on God. I'm going to hell. You're going to go to hell. You know.
Right.
And I told him I bought a book and I did all this research, and then I gave him a copy of the book, and I was really bullying him about it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Not necessarily in a bad way, but you know, very in a not I don't say inappropriately, but I was too heavy-handed with it. You know what I mean? And I'll be honest with you, he was a good friend. You know, he never once yelled at me or cussed me out or tried to put me in my place. He sat there quietly and tolerated my shenanigans and my pressuring and my saying, "Look, man, you got to look at this, read this. No, that's just this religion is fake. It's a sham." You know, and he saw it as, well, they're all Christians. This is a Christian religion. And
Right.
that's how the Mormons advertise themselves. But it violates a few of the core tenets of basic Christianity. You know,
Right.
so adding books to the Bible is a huge one. To me, that's the biggest one, the biggest glaring one. The other one,
Don't add or don't take away,
yeah, don't add or don't take away. That's right there in the last
or
book.
he will take away your place in heaven.
That's right. Exactly. Exactly. So, don't mess around with it. So that's how I saw it. At the time, I said, well, this is, to me, I'm a computer guy, right? I'm a ones and zeros man. So I'm like, this is clear here in black and white. Do not do this. They did that. They added like 12 books to the Bible, and they say all kinds of wacky things. Men can have a bunch of wives and it's totally cool. And black men are from the moon. They're monkeys from heaven or something like that. And it's just all kinds of crazy wackadoo stuff in there, man. Jesus came to America and gave tablets or the word to Indians. I mean, it's wild stuff.
Right.
So, of course, he had his wedding in the tabernacle, in the Mormon tabernacle here in DC. And he had a wedding. So they had two weddings, one that everybody could go to and one that no one could go to, because the whole thing is all cordoned off, and non-Mormons can't step on the carpet, and it's almost a cult. So but I didn't go to his wedding, which to me to this day is shameful, because he was my best friend in the whole world. He's one of the people who saw me through high school, and kept me from going crazy. So I just I don't know, man. It was a mistake, it was a mistake. It was mishandled, and I think that whole instance made me take a deeper look at Christianity, because I thought to myself, well, if this guy can come along, this Joseph Smith character can come along and make up a whole religion and suck all these people in, I was like, he's just a dude. This is the power of men. These guys
Think
can.
about, let's think about how many people in that sense, like what you're saying, like think about, and I kind of messed up a few relationships myself when I was younger, beating people up, and then I kind of learned my lesson from that. Let's think about how many thousands or millions of people have probably walked away from the faith due to being bullied and beat up,
Oh yeah.
and the thing about it, God is not a bully. You know what I'm saying? So we've lost a lot of people due to being bullied because maybe you aren't where I am. Like maybe you're not going to church every Sunday like me. Maybe you don't pray 3 times a day like me. Maybe you don't read the Bible 5 times a day like me. But for me, that doesn't make you a lesser person than me. That just means, you need to maybe get a little more on point with your worship, but that doesn't mean you're a bad person. That there's baby Christians that's drinking milk, and then you have Christians that's on stake. Your pros, your Christians that's been around, you know, um, they're eating steak dinners. And so if you get a baby Christian talking to a Christian that's been there a while, the Christian that's been there a while should make the baby Christian feel comfortable, not bully them, beat them up. Or better yet, if you got a person that's not even a Christian, but is open to new ideas, you shouldn't bully and beat them up. You should actually say, hey, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. He's the real God. You know, why don't you come with me to Bible study?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It shouldn't be bullying.
I
So
think
that's
that
the
was my
one thing.
mistake. That was, I'm sorry,
Right.
that was my mistake. I think now if I was going to do that again, I would have taken him to the pastor. I
You
would not
probably
have
would have showed
wasted
them a
time.
lot more love. Right.
Yeah, and I would have. I think as his friend, I should not have put myself in a position where I was the antagonistic. The,
Making them choose.
yeah, exactly. I shouldn't have been the wedge. I should have been a doorway. You know what I mean? And I think
Right.
that was the problem. You know what I mean? If I had taken him to even see the pastors are so well equipped to deal with people. They're like
Right.
psychiatrists. You know what I mean? So
Right.
if I had taken him to see the pastor, that would have been a different game altogether. But I
Right.
didn't do that. I was
Right.
just in his face.
It
With
was nothing wrong with expressing how you felt, because there's nothing wrong with that, because the Bible says a friend sharpens a friend. It's just that once they kind of you put it out there and they're not hearing you, instead of beating them up, you just kind of say, okay, well, like you say, maybe take them to the pastor, or you kind of just leave it alone until another opportunity presents itself, and you can kind of, you know, um, sometimes if you let time go by, they'll figure out themselves that it was the wrong choice.
right.
You know what I'm saying? You don't even really have to beat them up, you but you do plant the seed by telling them, hey, you know, I don't really think you're making the right decision, but I'm still gonna come to your wedding because you're my boy and I love you. Then that way you still planted that seed that, hey, you shouldn't do this, but at the same time, you're still showing love to them though,
Yeah.
you know. So hey, you made a mistake. I made a mistake. I messed up some relationships. We all make mistakes, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's a good thing. Tomorrow's a new day and a fresh start. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so, we shouldn't dwell on mistakes,
Well, you
that was
learn through
yesterday.
those. You learn through that stuff. So I mean, I'm a better man. I regret not going to his wedding, and I regret that he and I aren't friends really anymore. But at the same time, there was a huge learning. Situations today I've handled better because of how I handled that one. So,
Right.
you
That made
know,
you that situation basically eventually turned you to a better man.
yeah, yeah, I grew from that. I mean, I look, people say all the time, I have no regrets. I don't regret anything. All my life, you know, I've made mistakes, but I have no regrets. I'm not going to go that far. I'm going to be honest with you. I have regrets. I got a ton of
Right.
regrets.
Me
But
too.
at the same time, I look at it like this: nothing's wrong with making mistakes, nothing's wrong with having regrets. Just take something away from it. Don't walk
Right.
out of it stupid. You get stupider than you got in. Take something out of it, take something away from it, learn a lesson, and you'll be better for it. And that's what that's how I've tried to live my life. I've made a ton of mistakes and have a ton of regrets, but
Right.
I've tried to be
Right.
better every time. You know.
Right. Well, we're coming to the end of the show, and I definitely appreciate you coming out, giving your opinion on a very, very popular, discussion, very popular topic that, because there's a lot of people that walk away from the faith. It's a lot of people that feel like people in the faith turned their back on them, and it's a lot of people that walk away from Jesus. And so I definitely want to have this discussion. I wanted the people to hear and the people to know, hey, anybody that's walked away due to somebody, some preachers done some things wrong, or maybe your preacher was cheating on his wife, or maybe you found out something bad about the minister, or maybe the preacher said something to you he shouldn't have said, or you were bullied, to all you people that walked away or was done wrong. I want to say, hey, come on back. Jesus is the truth. Don't trust in man. Don't put your faith in man, and don't listen to man. If they say you can't, God says you can. So just keep the faith, and keep on believing in Jesus, not tradition, not following tradition or religion, but following Jesus Christ. It's all about God, and that's Jesus. So, until we meet again, this is Soldier Talk. This is Orseno Walker. My guest was James Broaders, man. Thanks for coming out, man. Number love for you, man. I remember you from high school, man, and it's just like yesterday, man. And I appreciate you coming out and giving your opinion.
Thank you for having me, man. And I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to talk to somebody about this, and I think it's an important topic because Black African Americans are spiritual people, and it's important to explore those issues. You know what I mean, and get to the bottom of why people do what they do. You know what I mean, and what's right for me is not right for everybody else, and it may not be right for me tomorrow. So I want to just reiterate to people that I have not gone into this with the thought that I'm sticking to my guns. There's not a better way.
Right,
There's always a better
right.
way. You got to be
There's
open.
always a better one.
Tomorrow you might see me in church. You don't know what'll happen. You
Right,
know what I mean? So, and
right,
I'm open to that
right,
possibility. So I think
right,
that's how you have to look at this stuff. You know what I mean? And
right,
talk to people, find the Orsenios in your life. If the pastor's not where he needs to be, you find the Orsenios or whoever is in your life to help you explore these things in a helpful, useful way.
right.
So yeah.
And I thank you, man. I appreciate you coming out, and that'll be the end of my show. And I'll catch up with you guys next time. And peace out, man, until we do it again.
Who can you call when the devil trying to kill you, know what I'm saying? Call on Jesus, baby. When you're laying in a puddle of blood and you wonder how you gonna make it. When you're sitting in the jail cell and you wonder when you gonna get out. When the bills is due and you ain't got no paper, who can you call? I can call on Jesus, you know what I'm talking about? I've been shot, I've been to jail, and he's came through for me every time. I'm still here, entertained, I'm still breathing, baby. Who can I call when I get in trouble?